Alright guys, it's time to go to the third approach, which is asking specific questions to maybe 1, 2 or perhaps 3 members of your audience. And this is the most tricky one, because preparation is key, as we discussed before. And when you ask an open question with endless amounts of possible replies to it, you're never going to be able to prepare yourself completely towards whatever they're going to say. In most cases, you're going to get the reply you've prepared for, but there's always this moment or person in the room that's going to be the funny guy and actually screws up your preparation a bit. So it comes down to how I'm going to make sure that the audience is giving the answer I'm looking for and I can actually use somewhere throughout my story. So basically what you want to do is direct your question and direct it to a couple, maybe at max 5 different answers. To give a basic and a really basic example, I could ask the audience, what's the worst topping for a pizza, right? And in this case, I could get a number of vegetables or fruits. But there could also be a funny guy who would say bricks. That's funny though, because I would never be able to use that topic again. He thought he could be funny by giving me something that's of course absolutely true, but it's not really applicable to my story. If I change the question up to, let's say, okay, wouldn't you agree that pineapple is the worst topping for a pizza and should basically be abundant or whatever it is? Now I'm just focusing on a specific answer and tend to go for a yes or no one. But giving your audience a couple of possible replies, so basically making a multiple choice question or a simple yes or no answer, allows you to prepare more for whatever they're going to say. And that's the key part when it comes down to tricky questions, as you want to use their answer alongside. Then if we continue, people are not always prepared for you to give you an answer. As they're listening to you, the general experience is that we're just going to listen to you. So make sure you somewhat announce that you want a reply from your audience. So basically introduce, okay guys, I want you to answer about a specific question. So fill in your any question and you're going to say, okay, think about it for a moment. I'm going to ask you about it in a sec. And then you continue and look for someone in the room about it. But then you prepare them a bit more to come up with any decent answer, because you also don't want your audience to black out as well, meaning that you have to go to the next person. Whatever the answer of your audience might be, and if this person gets stuck to it, take it serious. Of course, if they are trying to be the funny guy, you can pay back and you can actually make fun of them as well. But in general, you don't want to laugh at it. You want to take his or her answer quite serious, because otherwise, if you ever want to do the same approach again, your audience might be a bit afraid that you're going to laugh at them or whatever the mistake you made at that point you could basically repeat. And the final one you want to take in consideration is, what are you going to do if your audience doesn't give the reply? So you say, but who has an answer on the following question? Nobody puts their hands up in the air, or you're not getting the reply you're looking for. How are you going to continue from that moment onwards? And this is most likely like the worst case scenario. So in this case, you could always go back to, let's say, asking multiple questions, right? So you could continue and asking multiple questions and make a rhetorical question instead. So it's basically switching approach in case needed. And otherwise, the second approach would be to just give an answer by yourself. Even though if you feel like, okay, the entire audience will probably say yes, in this case, for some reason say no, be honest with your audience. Okay, I actually thought most of you would have, and then continue from that moment onwards. Honesty is key as you become vulnerable towards your audience, and you definitely earn some respect along the side of it. So when it comes down to asking these specific questions, make sure you have a fixed amount or a small amount of possible replies to it, and prepare for those. Make use of those as well. Anything else? I think that's basically it for this approach. But when it comes down to asking these questions, you can also pilot them towards other people, right? To your team members, to classmates, to colleagues. Whenever you're doing a presentation and you want to see what kind of replies you can get, pilot these questions towards them and see what type of answers you might get at that point. Because even though in your own expectations and world you might think this is the most common answer, it's just you, right? So if you can pilot it and ask, classmates, friends, whatever it is about the subject, you might get a better idea what the possible replies might be. That's the third approach. Feel free to try it out.